In an age of skyrocketing divorce rates, is it really possible to make love last? Welcome to the Falling in Love Forever show with Doctors Barbara and Michael Grossman, the well-known relationship experts and best-selling authors of The Marriage Map book. Each week, they share the latest information to help you enjoy your romantic partnerships so you can fall in love forever. Here are your hosts, Doctors Barbara and Michael Grossman.
Welcome. I'm Dr. Michael Grossman. This is my wife, Dr. Barbara Grossman. And for those who don't know, I am a medical doctor, anti-aging specialist. Dr. Barbara is a
individual marriage and family therapist.
And she is an expert in helping people to fall in love forever. And that is why we have this book, The Marriage Map. The subtitle is The Road to Transforming Your Marriage from Ordeal to Adventure. So today, we're going to talk about the myth of Psyche and Eros, which is also known as Psyche and Cupid. And it's the myth of what their own personal development was as it was written thousands of years ago. When I say written, spoken, it was the entertainment, it was the movies, it was the essence of our culture for thousands of years. And there's such wisdom there for what's needed for men and women to grow and develop. And this is the story of woman's development. And the pearls of wisdom that are there are extraordinary. And we're going to unfold them today and uplift both men and women to see the kind of growth that it takes to create falling in love forever. So we'll start with the story of Psyche and Eros. So Psyche is the only Greek goddess or Greek god who decided they were going to leave the world of the gods and be born as a human being and give up their godhood, because she wanted to experience what it was like to be a human being. And she was going to give up her godhood, which is what she did. And when she did that, she was born to a king and queen. And she was so beautiful as she was growing up that people worshiped her. They saw how beautiful she was. And they just felt they had to worship her. She was so beautiful. And that irritated Aphrodite, also known as Venus, the goddess of love. And she didn't like that people were bowing down and worshiping Psyche, because she wanted the attention for herself. So as Psyche grew up to be this beautiful woman, she sent her son, Eros, who is the god of love, who shoots the arrow at somebody and they fall in love with whoever they're looking at when the arrow is shot into them. And so Eros goes on this mission from his mother, to shoot an arrow into Psyche when she's looking at this monster, so that Aphrodite thought that she would fall in love with the monster and she'd be finished. No one would keep worshiping her because she'd be off in this wilderness with the monster. But what happened was that as Eros is getting ready to shoot her with the arrow, he sees how beautiful she is, and his hand slipped and he cut his own fingers on the arrow, and he fell in love with Psyche. Wow. So what does he do? He covers her up so she can't see anything and flies her off to his castle in the mountains. And he tells her, I'm in love with you, but I'm a god and you can't look at my face, but I want to marry you. And as long as you don't look at my face, you can be with me at night in the dark, but you can never look at my face.
Isn't that just like a man? He wants to love you, he wants your love, but sharing intimately is not comfortable. It's off base.
So that is what happened with Psyche. She lives with her husband Eros in the mountains, and she only sees him in the dark of night. And they make love every night, and they have a wonderful relationship as far as sexual intimacy and being together. But Psyche gets a little lonely, and she asks, can I have my sisters come over because I'm a little lonely? And he says, all right. Sisters come over. His sisters, her sisters, are there. It's a beautiful castle. Everything's wonderful. But, have you ever seen him during the day? You don't know what he looks like. He might be a demon. You don't really know. You should check it out, and we're not really sure who and what he is. He might not be what he says. So after the sisters leave, Psyche just thinks about, oh, I really should look at him. I know I promised him not, but I'm a little hurt. I'll just look at him a little bit with a little candle. So during the night while he's sleeping, she lights the candle and comes over to look at him during the night. And as she's looking at him, she sees how beautiful he is, and she's shocked because he's just so gorgeous. She's a god. It just looks so beautiful, perfection. And her hand shakes a little bit, and some of the wax slips and drips on him, and he wakes up. And he looks at her and says, "You cheated on me. You looked at me, loud." And he runs off, and he flies away, and he goes back to his mother Aphrodite in the heavens, and he leaves her alone. And Psyche is devastated, just devastated. And you notice what happens. Both of them get a little overwhelmed with the beauty of each other. And that is an interesting kind of story that, you just fall in love with people, and it just kind of overwhelms you, but it's because you see into them more than what you're expecting. And it touches you deeply. But then it creates the complexities, and here are the complexities. So here Psyche is overwhelmed, and she's so sad. Oh my God, my husband is gone. And she goes all around everywhere saying, how can I get back to my husband? I have to get back. And she's told, you have to go to Aphrodite. She's in charge of this. So finally, Psyche she finds a way to talk to Aphrodite, and Aphrodite has it in for her. Says, oh yeah, I'll help you out. All you have to do is these 3 kind of impossible tasks. If you can do them, go back to my husband, your husband. Aphrodite is not being very nice about it, but pretends to be nice. And Psyche says, I'll do anything, whatever it takes. First task, there's 3 tasks that she gets up front. But anyway, the first task she gets is a big pile of seeds and beans, and separate out the seeds from the beans overnight, and then you complete this, and you'll have done this. So Psyche is overwhelmed because there's a pile of beans 3 stories high, mixed in with seeds. It will take years to separate them out. She can't possibly do it overnight. She's crying and crying. And what happens is that insects come from all around, and they begin to move the seeds and beans and separate them out. And there's millions of insects moving around. And overnight, they separate the pile out. And that is the first task. That's an impossible task, but it's done.
So what does this mean? It means, first of all, when you get to that place in relationship where you're disconnected because some doubt has crept in and you've separated, you're not as close. The first realization you need to have is that the way to get back together is to commit to growing. You have to grow yourself, not change your partner. And the first step in this journey is for Psyche to define herself, to sort herself out and find out, and just determine what she wants from what she doesn't want, to actually create a vision and focus on what is of value to her, to learn about herself so she is more defined as a person. So that's the meaning of the first task.
So now Aphrodite is a little bit upset that she did the first task, and now Aphrodite gives her a second task. And the second task is, that Aphrodite says, I'd like to have golden fleece so I can make a special shawl filled with the golden fleece. And the golden fleece is found in one area in a field where these divine rams are. They're super strong rams that will kill anybody who comes near them. But they have this fleece that is just shiny and gold, and if you take the fleece and make a coat from it, it just is so beautiful. So she wants Aphrodite to get the fleece from the golden rams and bring it to her so she can make her special shawl. And Aphrodite goes to see the rams, and they're just so big and so powerful and banging their ram horns together. It's just like she'll be dead in no time, and she just cries and cries. And then she hears someone whispering to her, and the little grass that whispers and says, wait until everything quiets down on sunset. The rams will get calm and quiet, and then you can go around the bushes where the fleece has been sort of pulled off of the rams and are just hanging on the bushes. And you go around the bushes and just pick the fleece off and let the rams lie there, and then you'll have what you need. And that's what she does. And she gets the fleece and she brings it to Aphrodite. And Aphrodite is very unhappy that she was completing that.
So what does this part of the story mean? First of all, notice that Psyche has mentors. She has instruction and assistance from helpers who come to her aid and teach her. And in this, at first it was the insects or ants that helped her sort the seeds. In this instance, it were the voices that told her and coached her not to confront these wild rams while they're angry, but to wait until they're relaxed and comfortable and not angry, and go collect the fleece around the sides of the field. In this way, she's not confronting the rams and not disturbing them and not creating conflict. She's easily collecting the wool. And that is a important learning lesson for women to learn not to confront their men when they're angry, and not to react to their men when they're angry, but to wait until their man calms down and then speak rationally to their men, because that's more effective.
So now Aphrodite gives her the third of 4 tasks to do. So the third task is to go down a mountain that's very, very steep, extremely steep, very mountainous, very rocky, and that is guarded by a dragon that flies around and kills anything that comes near it. And at the bottom of the mountain is a river Styx. And the river Styx is a divine, special river that has so much energy in it. It's the river that divides life and death, the living from the dead, and it just smolders with smoke and energy. Anyone who touches it and eats from it, they die immediately. But it is for the gods super energy. They get divine energy from it. So only the gods can deal with it. And Aphrodite says to Psyche, I would like a cup of water from the river Styx. I want you to bring it to me. And Psyche goes up on top of the mountain. She sees the dragon flying around there, and she says, there's no way I can do anything like this. And she's getting ready to jump into the mountain and kill herself. And what happens is an eagle swoops down. An eagle grabs the cup, and the eagle flies down and goes down so fast, can grab up a cup of water, and the dragon, before the dragon can catch it, it flies away, and it brings the cup of water to Psyche. And then the eagle turns back into Zeus, who says that I'm going to help you with this, and he flies off.
So Psyche's desire is so great that it inspires divine intervention. And what happens? Um, the the cup represents, the cup of water represents creating order out of chaos. And it is the life, the spirit of life. And it represents Psyche connecting with her own spirit, enlivening her spirit, becoming truly independent in spirit and connected to the eternal spirit, knowing who she is. It's a phenomenal accomplishment. And it's assisted by Zeus out of her intention, her great desire to move forward in her life and create great love. It inspires her to really get settled and centered in an independent self.
And so that's the symbolism of that task is taking that chaotic waters of life and making it orderly and making it work in your life. So now, the fourth and last task that Psyche has to do, and Aphrodite's not happy about her getting all these things done. So she gives her the task that you have to go into the underworld where only the dead live. And you have to go into the underworld and get me a special ointment from the queen of the underworld, which is the ointment that keeps the gods youthful. And bring it back to me. And that's all you have to do, which is an impossible task because no one has ever been able to go into the underworld and come back alive. So she's given this task, and she goes to this area where the road to the underworld starts with this tower that's built, this big gate and a big tower that's man-made. And then when you go in the underworld, there are these ferocious three-headed dogs that kill anybody who come near them. And then you have to go through, after the dogs are there, you have to go over the river Styx, which is running through there. And you have to take a ferry across there. And so once you go across the ferry, and of course you go across the ferry, the ferryman is not open to bringing people across there. And so it's usually only the gods who can go in there. So you go across there, and then you have to walk past where all the people are dead, and the dead people are calling out and crying out, and they want you to help them and do something for them, and it's very emotionally overwhelming. And then you're going to reach the queen of the underworld, and you got to talk to her and ask her for the ointment, and then try to leave the same way you came. It's an overwhelming process. So Psyche is overwhelmed, and she's crying. She knows there's no way she can do it. And then the tower starts talking to her, the man-made tower. It says, hey, if you want to go in and come out, this is what you do. And the tower tells her, you have to get 2 loaves of bread. You hold one in each hand. And when you walk in, you throw it, one to the dogs when you go in. And when you come out, you throw the other one to the dogs when you come out. And you better hold on to them until the right time. And the tower tells her, you put 2 coins in your mouth, gold coins. And you give 1 coin to the ferryman when you go in, and 1 coin when you come out. And you better leave it in your mouth until the right time is. You take it in and bring it out when you need it. And when you're walking through the underworld, if you say anything or touch anyone or try to help anyone who's calling for help, as soon as you do anything, you're gone. You'll never come out again. So Psyche gets all the things she needs. She gets the bread, 1 in each hand, the coins, 2 coins in her mouth, and she does all the things she's asked for. And she doesn't respond to anybody. And people are crying and screaming and pleas, and they're begging for her help. And she just stays on task. She goes to the queen of the underworld. She tells her that Aphrodite would like this ointment. She gets the ointment. She comes out the same way she came in. And there she is. She's completed the fourth task. Now she knows she can go back to her husband.
So this is like a final exam. Every element of this story represents a aspect of development. Psyche has to be completely self-disciplined. She can't speak. She has to watch. She has to focus on her purpose. She protects herself by following every piece of direction so that her journey is complete and correct. She knows not to be compassionate for the many souls that are crying out to her. This is a challenge to make boundaries. It's hard for women to make boundaries. They want to give, but this is not a time to give. This is a time to stay on purpose. And so she delivers every aspect of the journey completely properly and completes the task of retrieving the special ointment and returning exactly the way she came, demonstrating that she has learned how to discipline herself, how to discipline her emotions, and how to stay focused on her goals.
So it's a tremendous accomplishment. And so the fourth task is different than the first three tasks because Psyche is doing them. It's her own personal development that she has grown into, developing her own skills and abilities to be able to be on the same level as her husband, the god Eros. And it's a tremendous accomplishment that she's gone through. And this is a great accomplishment for a woman. And a woman's path of development is generally different than a man. A woman will often, have the children be developing their emotions and their connection and their love and their attachments, and then later they have to develop these things that Psyche developed in her process of developing her own personal psychological skill sets that she developed, controlling her emotions and her thoughts and her ability to say no and her ability to stay on task. So now what happens to Psyche is that she's gone through all these processes and she's walking up the mountain to be back to her husband in Mount Olympus, and she realizes that she's a complete mess, physical mess. She looks awful, and she's all torn up, her clothes, and her skin is all weird, and it's no way to meet her husband. And she wants to meet her husband and be on that same level. She wants to be attractive to her husband. And so she realizes that she has this ointment of the gods to make you look youthful and beautiful. And she decides she's going to open the ointment and put it on her face, which she does. And as soon as she does that, she dies. And she dies because only the gods can put the ointment on and stay alive. And there she is. She's dead. And all the gods are watching what's happening. They can see everything that happens on Earth. And Eros sees what happens, and he's so emotionally moved by who Psyche has become that he leaves his mother, doesn't care what mother thinks. He wants Psyche to be his wife, and he flies down and picks her up. She's dead. He brings her to Zeus and says, "This is my wife. I want you to bring her back to life." And Zeus says yes, and he does, and he brings her back to life. And she comes alive, and she is pregnant with his baby, and she later has the baby, and the baby is called Joy, and they live in heavenly bliss as husband and wife for all eternity. And this is the story of Psyche and Eros.
And so what does this mean? It means that Psyche's growth and development so inspires Eros that he leaves his mother, and he was actually a mischievous boy when the story starts. He was busy playing with shooting arrows and getting people together. He's willing to step forward and become a mature man and claim his woman And so they have both. Psyche's growth has inspired Eros to join her by her side. They've both grown. Her development has encouraged his development, and they join as a beautiful couple and give birth to a child. They become partners in life.
And so there you have a mythological story from thousands of years ago, which are very appropriate today, right now, to inspire us as to how to fall in love forever. And what does it take? It doesn't take just finding that first love where you just get a little overwhelmed in your heart and things shake and you say, oh, how beautiful they are. No, it actually takes a lot of development of your personality, of developing skills, of getting connected to things that are bigger than yourself. And you see the pattern for psyche. And next week, we're going to talk about the pattern for the man as seen through the mythological story of Percival, the greatest knight of King Arthur's court. So these are stories and myths that are in our book, The Marriage Map. You can read these stories. They're fun stories, easy to read. We also have them on audio tape in the available. So we encourage you, come back next week. We'd love to have you be there and listen to these stories. It's a lot of fun.
Yes, at another time, we'll tell you what modern psychology says about women's development and men's development, how it's similar and different. Psychology has different language for describing this evolution of personalities over time. We like to bring you these stories so that you know that this wisdom isn't new. It's ancient and it's deep and important. And if we understand how we journey through life, we can journey together and keep our love growing and developing forever.
So look us up on themarriagemap.com. You can look at our courses that we have available to actually learn these skills that you will need for your own personal development and growth into these higher levels of love and spirituality. And that you can find that on fallinginloveforever.com. Well, it's a pleasure. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Wishing you love.
Thank you for watching the Falling in Love Forever show with Doctors Barbara and Michael Grossman. Join us next week for another informative discussion to help you keep your love alive. Be sure to visit us at themarriagemap.com or find out about our relationship classes at fallinginloveforever.com.